My dear friends, it so happened in the life of Benedict XVI, the previous Pope. Now we have Pope Francis as our Pope, but before this, when Pope Benedict XVI was the Pope, it happened during his time. Those of you who have been to Rome, or those who watch television or watch Pope when he addresses or imparts blessing from his window, this incident happened when he was imparting the blessing from his window. As he was there at the window imparting the blessing, as soon as he finished, there was a man in the crowd who was a fanatic, and he had a gun with him, and so just raised his gun and he aimed at the Pope. And as he was pulling the trigger was not in function. He was not able to pull the trigger. And at this, the guards who were there, the people who were there, noticed him, and he was immediately captured. He was immediately caught and taken aside. And when this happened, he was taken to the Pope before taking him to the prison. And when this man was taken to the Pope, this man, looking at the Pope, he said, "You missed the chance because the trigger did not work. You missed the chance, I missed the chance because the trigger did not work of the pistol." And at this moment, Pope Benedict said to him, "My son, how would you do that? I had already blessed the crowd, the audience, and you were one of them who were blessed. And therefore, the trigger was not being able to be pulled because I had blessed all of you. And the blessing was upon you all. So my son, I know the news might have reached far and wide. The news might have reached to your family, and they must be all worried about this. Therefore, return back to your home. Your people are worried at home. Your wife, your children, your family might be worried what is going to happen next for this little action or this little act that you are involved in. So, return back home." And he told those who had caught him, "Release him." My dear friends, this is an act of mercy. This is an act of forgiveness. Yes, it is very difficult to forgive those who do ill or who do evil towards us, who do wrong towards us. We may forgive in general, but in reality, it is very difficult to forgive those who are our own. And when they disobey or disown us, when they ditch us, it is not so easy to forgive. And therefore we say, to err is human, to forgive is divine. As human beings, it is difficult. And so we need God's help so that we may be moved to forgive the person. Else, as humans, it is very difficult. And therefore, the readings today speaks about this forgiveness. Therefore, Peter is also asking Jesus, "Is it enough if I forgive 7 times? A tolerable period. How long can we tolerate a person? Yes, we can forgive him once. We can forgive him twice, thrice. But Peter extends it to 7. And yet Jesus says, no. Peter was generous when he says 7. Who will forgive 7 times? So long a person to be forgiven. And why does Jesus say, no, not 7 times, 70 times 7? Means limitless. It is not the calculation that we have to make, mathematical calculation, 70 times 7. But what Jesus meant was, there is no limit of forgiveness because, as I said in the introduction, there is no limit for sinning. We keep on sinning. We keep on falling back, or we keep on falling down in sin. Therefore, we need to forgive, and forgive. Because people will not sin only just for 7 times, so he will not do wrong towards you for a limited period. He will continue and it will happen and happen. And we will also commit sins again and again. So therefore, we need to forgive the persons. My dear friends, the first reading speaks about all the evil things, anger, hatred, jealousy, all that we nurture within us. And these are like debts. So every time we nurture a sin, it is like we incur a debt. We incur a debt. We owe something to someone. And therefore, you might have experienced in your life when we owe someone something, if we had taken something from someone and we had promised the person that we would give him in a year's time or in few months, and suppose we are not able to do so, then we will not move somewhere close to him, or we will try to skip him if we meet him, or we will not take the path that the person takes, so in order to avoid the person. Otherwise, he will ask us, remind us about the money that we owe him. Therefore, we try to move away from the person. We will try to distance away from the person as far as possible, because he will remind us. Same thing happens in sin. Every time we sin, we incur a debt. And this takes us away as a person moves away from the person who had given him something from whom he had borrowed. So same way we move away from God because we feel a little bad to move in the way of the person, so that otherwise he will remind us. And therefore, every sin that we do is like incurring a debt. And these sins are forgiven, or these sins are cancelled every time we approach God by forgiveness. So when we say forgiveness, when we have that, when we are aware that we have to pay someone something, we will not move away, or we will not take another path in order to dodge the person or skip the person, avoid the person. But we will walk in the same path. We will meet him, we will say hi to him, we will move away. And so when we give forgiveness, this will be our attitude, that we come closer to God. And therefore the second reading also reminds us, if we live or if we die, we are with Christ, we are His. Therefore, if we are His, then we have to follow what Jesus teaches us: forgiveness, mercy. And these are like stumbling blocks which does not allow God's grace to enter into our lives. Many times we say, people going to Pota, people going for healing retreats, we have been attending so many times, but my neighbors, my friends, they just went twice and they received the favors. They received the healing, but I could not. I have been going every year, I have been going every time. And I have gone more times, many times than the person who has got this healing. But why did I not receive the healing? This is a question that we often raise. This is the answer. That we have got something within us. And this anger, this hatred are like wounds which are not healed. And therefore, these are also like blocks which does not allow the grace of God to enter or to penetrate, because they remain as a block. Unless we remove these blocks, this grace of God will not pass through it. And therefore the readings calls us, forgive, forgive and forgive. It does not harm only the person whom we are against, but it also harms us who remains without forgiveness. And psychology will speak about this. It is not only the person whom we hate suffers, but we also suffer, but we may not show it. We may not show it externally, but we suffer within ourselves. We are not able to do things that we normally do. We are not at peace. Though we show that we are at peace, we are happy, internally we are not. My dear friends, once a husband and wife, they were fighting and they were saying, there is no peace in the house. Every time you say something, every time I say something, and every time there is a quarrel between us. Look at the dogs. Look at our dogs. They are so silent, so peaceful. They never disturb anyone. And at that moment, in a humor, the wife said to the husband, Yes, the dogs are silent because you have tied them, one at the left and the other one at the right. They are not living together like us. You tie them together and you will see the difference. They will also fight like us. My dear friends, this is a reality. We don't live separately, husband and wife, family. We live as a community. And therefore, there will be a lot of misunderstandings. There will be a lot of quarrels. Because we are living in a community. All of us are not thinking the same way. So there will be differences. Therefore, there will be misunderstanding, there will be fights. One will not agree with the other, and he will not agree with the third one. So, we need to be understanding the weaknesses of others. We need to arrive at some conclusion, giving way for the other. Sometimes I respect the other's decision. Yes, we'll do as you are saying. Next time something happens, he will say, yes, we'll do this time as you are thinking. So this is the way we come to a conclusion. We become one-minded or one-hearted in our decision making. We give chance to all so that all are happy, all get their chance, all get their space. And therefore, when we live in a community, this is very important. And St. Paul reminds us, forgiveness is the hallmark of a community. Forgiveness is a hallmark of a family. And that will keep the family intact. Or else, the family will fall apart. The family will not remain as a family, it will remain apart. So let us pray for this grace, that God may help us, that God may inspire us, that God may guide us when we face difficulties, when we face challenges, and when we face oppositions within our family, within our community, or from others, our neighbors, that God may give us the grace to bear with them, to forgive them, at least internally. We may not forgive them externally, which is very difficult at times, but internally, to forgive them, say, yes, Lord, I surrender myself. I surrender the person to yourself, to you. I will be at peace. I will be able to do my things as I do. Else, I will all the time be worried, and I will not be at peace. I will not be able to give myself in the work that I do. So let us pray for this grace at this Eucharistic celebration, and also pray for vocations, for priesthood, for nunhood, that God may guide and inspire many young men and women to work in His vineyard, to continue this good work.